So, welcome to Unity Halton Peel. My name is Debbie Long. I'm an LUT, and today's message is from Praying Peace by James Twyman. His question is, can one person, properly motivated, change the world? Do you have the power to change the world, to make an impact on the way that each one of us experiences who we are and why we're here? He believes the answer is yes. So some background on James Twyman. The path of prayer was set early in his life. He gained the knowledge of just how powerful prayer was. And he became like an Olympic athlete who pushes the limits. And he did just that to see if prayer could really change the world. He poo-pooed people who tried to tell him that prayer was just a passive, self-indulgent passion for the weak-minded. Intuitively, he knew that there was more to it, so he set out to prove it so. Twyman suspected that there was some common thread that could pull the whole world together, change the way we think about each other, even about God and about ourselves. That thread for him became the peace prayers from the different religions of the world. In 1986, Pope Paul John II decided to bring 12 major religions of the world together to celebrate peace. Each spiritual master prayed the prayer from their tradition that defined their own longing for peace. After this experience, they realized that they all wanted the same thing. They also realized that if you took out the words Allah, Buddha, God from the prayers, it was hard to tell which prayer belonged to who. The world began to realize that they weren't so far apart after all. So Twyman took these 12 prayers prayed by the spiritual masters, and in less than an hour, put them together to music. And you can go on YouTube and look up James Twyman, the 12 prayers, and you can listen to the song. It's about an hour long, or I'd have played it here today, but that would have taken up the whole lesson, so I chose not to. So after putting it to music, he suddenly knew the direction of his life and that the peace prayers of the world would be at the center. So he became world renowned for his music and his peace concerts that he performed. So after performing these for over a decade, in 1998, the government of Iraq invited him to come to Baghdad to perform his peace concert. I keep wanting to say conference. He had fear because, of course, they were at war, and yet he felt an urgency to be there. He contacted his assistant to send an email to a few people asking them to join him in prayer at the exact time that the concert was happening. At that time, he was a bit of an internet virgin, and unbeknownst to him, his request had circled the globe in about a week. At the very moment that the concert started, there were millions of people all over the world who stopped what they were doing to pray peace. Not praying for peace, praying peace. 3 days later, a peace agreement was signed against the expectation of the entire world by Iraq. This same scenario again happened 1 week later in Northern Ireland. So shortly after this happened, Twyman met with Greg Braden and Doreen Virtue, who are co-writers of his book, Praying Peace. And they created what they called the Great Experiment, bringing science and mysticism together to prove prayer is the most powerful force in the universe. And the reason it's science and mysticism being brought together, because Greg Braden is a scientist, Doreen Virtue is a psychologist, and of course, Twyman is a mystic. April 23rd, 1999, millions of people from over 80 countries joined for the first great experience. This showed that people wanted to come together and pray. And when mass numbers of people focused their minds and hearts on the reality of peace, things started to happen and prophecies were even fulfilled. And I'm going to share one. This is from his book on page 23. Just moments before this first great experiment began, he was at the United Nations in New York, getting ready to speak to about 40 ambassadors. Before they arrived, someone suggested that the organizers and himself should form a circle and say a prayer. When the prayer was over, a woman that he didn't know stepped inside the circle and said these words: 4 years, 4 months, 4 weeks, and 4 days ago, a group of Native American elders came to the UN to give their vision of the new world. One of the things they said was, 4 years, 4 months, 4 weeks, and 4 days from now, which was that very day, something will occur in this building that will shift the consciousness of humanity forever. So he asked himself, could this actually be true? And all he knew was that he heard from thousands of people who joined him in that first great experiment, who said the same thing. They said that something happened to them that day, that they felt something shift, not only within themselves, but in their own worlds and the world as a whole. Twyman convicted that prayer is the most powerful force in the universe, conviction that prayer is the most powerful force in the universe, intensifying. This led to many, many worldwide prayer vigils, and each time they invited people to come together as one mind and one heart, something incredible took place. So our role is not to bring peace to where it is not, but to reveal peace where it is hidden. And this became the foundation of Twyman's ministry. That's why he emphatically states that we do not pray for peace. We pray peace. We are peace. So to pray peace, we reveal to the world they are the expression of peace as well, which in turn triggers the peace in the world and in the universe. People can't be understood with the mind, but must be experienced with the heart. Try to grasp it, hold it, and it's gone. We have all experienced that enticing aroma of peace, leaving us wanting more. So, Twyman's definition of prayer is becoming aware of the awareness of God. The infinite mind is not limited by the distractions that so often steal our attention, but is always in every way focused on the truth within each one of us. So how do we become aware of awareness? Becoming aware of the awareness of God is the act of reestablishing the flow of information between our source and ourselves. And we do that through prayer. Peace, on the other hand, is a bit harder to define. In the Bible, St. Paul refers to it as peace that surpasses understanding. It's often hard for us to imagine an experience without an opposite. So he defines it in this way. Peace is not the opposite of war, but an experience that transcends all definitions, linking us to our eternal nature. Is it possible for us to experience something that is so pure, so whole, that it cannot be compared to anything at all? The answer is absolutely yes. Better yet, if we were able to have such an experience, do we have the words to describe it? And the answer is emphatically no. So to capsulize this, when we enter a state of communication with the divine through prayer, then we are aware of God and we experience peace. So before I go on to what those three wonderful people created, I want to read this quote from Buddha, because Some of what I will share might trigger you, especially right now with what's going on with the wars and the injustice of so much. You might be triggered, and I'm just asking you to look at it with an open heart and take what you want and leave the rest. But Buddha says it much more beautifully than me. Do not believe in anything simply because you've heard it. Do not believe in anything simply because it is spoken and rumored by many. Do not believe in anything simply because it is found written in our religious books. Do not believe in anything merely on the authority of your teachers and elders. Do not believe in traditions because they have been handed down for many generations. But after observation and analysis, when you find that anything agrees with reason and is conducive to the good and benefit of one and all, then accept it and live up to it. So, as I shared earlier, Twyman, a mystic, got together with Greg Braden, a scientist, and Doreen Virtue, a psychologist, and they created the 7 pathways to peace. Number 1, you're always praying. Thought itself is prayer. 2, whatever you focus your mind on increases. 3, to change the world, change your thoughts about the world. If you want to experience peace, become peace. 5, peace is always present, though it is sometimes hidden. 6, love is the only force in the universe. And 7, the world is already healed. They sound like unitics to me. So we're going to look at them individually through the eyes of the mystic, the psychologist, and the scientist. Remember that when our thoughts and emotions congeal into the feelings, that is what allows us to communicate with the divine. If we try to separate them, we talk ourselves out of praying. So, number 1, you are always praying. Thought itself is prayer, which is one of the major teachings of unity. The mystic states our thoughts are more powerful than we can ever know. If we're one with the mind of God, then our thoughts are the prayers that create new worlds, banish old worlds, and imagine worlds that can never be. The world we perceive is the world we want to perceive. The psychologist says that can be frightening, but sometimes that kind of scare wakes us up. From a spiritual psychological perspective, as A Course in Miracles says, it is impossible to have an experience you did not ask for. Everything in our lives is the result of prayer. And the scientist asks us to imagine how the world will look when we fully realize this power. Wars and conflict exist because we think we're weak or because we don't understand how feelings create the world we live in. So what does conflict give us? Maybe it lets us live in a world where we don't have to be responsible. Maybe we're afraid of our own power. Number 2, whatever you focus your mind on increases. Another unity teaching. Are you at a place in your life where you can say, yes, I can take responsibility for everything in my world? If you're saying yes, you might want to remember this. Only water the seeds you want to grow. Don't water the ones you don't want. So if you look at that, say, in the context of what's going on in Israel, in Palestine, so many of us are outraged because of the injustice of it. And, it started with being angry at Hamas. And then, I hear a lot of people who are saying that Israel is doubling down and that's just as bad. And the whole thing is awful. So those are prayers. All those thoughts and words that we're saying, those are prayers. And those are the prayers we're putting out. Those are not going to help the people in Israel and Palestine. The thoughts that we need to send out is love and compassion and peace. And just surrender all the negativity. And we may not, us here individually, see the difference that it makes. But the great experiment that these three wonderful people put together shows that it can change. So the next time you feel like you want to complain about what's going on there, send them love and compassion and peace instead. The psychologist shares with us that the second pathway requires us to do the thing we have tried to avoid, responsibility. We humans quite often want to blame someone else, anyone else, for what happens to us. Only when we start our conscious spiritual journey can we look in the mirror and see the truth. It may take many, 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 many moments, but we can see the truth eventually. And the scientist informs us that it is the end of victimhood if we take this path seriously. Our attention is like a magnifying glass, and everything it looks upon grows large and important. The mystic agrees with them both, yet expects there's more, as if our vision does more than increase what we focus on, it actually creates it. And Twyman explains it this way. We like to say we are one with God, but what does that really mean? It obviously means that we are not separate from our Creator, but it would also mean that we create as God creates. This is the key to this second pathway, actually to all the pathways. This is because prayer is not something we do, it's something we are. Number 3, to change the world, change your thoughts about it. And Ian Van Zandt used to say it, change your mind and your behind will follow. There are actually 2 different worlds. The first is the world of the individual mind, and the second is the collective world. So the question is, how do all of these seemingly separate versions of the world, the individuals, combine to create an experience we can agree on? From the scientist's point of view, our emotions, our thoughts, and feelings draw upon the raw materials that we're given, like the resources of the planet, for example, and use them like building blocks to create what we're calling the world. The whole is contained within each part. That is the mystic's point, that each of us contain the whole. We created the world through the language of the soul, and we can change it in the same way. The psychologist acknowledges that we change our thoughts about the world, then the world must change, because the thoughts of God, of which we are forever part, created everything that exists. So the key is to let go of the ideas we have about what we are and are not. To say that we are one with God is just another thought until we enter into the experience of this truth, which we do through prayer and meditation. Just as the scientist said, a thought is not very powerful when it is divorced from the emotion, but when thought and emotion combine, they produce the feeling, and that is where creation begins. Number 4, if you want to experience peace, become peace. Well, how does one become peace? How do we live our lives in such a manner that everything we do is an expression of compassion and kindness and love? How do we pray peace? By realizing peace is what we are, the truth in us. We cannot become something we already are, but we can remember what we have forgotten. And many of us at many times have forgotten the truth that we are peace. Our greatest obstacle is the simple idea that has ruled nearly every aspect of everyone's lives at one time or another, demanding our full attention. And that is, I am not worthy of love. So how do we heal that? How do we surrender that? How do we let that go? Forgiveness is the key. Healing cannot fully take place until we let go of the past, creating space for a new life to be born within us. The mystic tells us that we cannot bring something to another unless we believe we have that thing within ourselves or that state of being. So if you need to forgive yourself first so that you can forgive others, that's where you begin. To bring peace, we must find that peace within us first. It's that simple. Number 5, peace is always present, though it is sometimes hidden. So we can choose to see it or not. It would be easy for someone to look out at the world the way it is right here, right now, and decide upon the reality of fear and hatred and violence. How can we say that it isn't real? Isn't that like an ostrich putting its head in the sand? Certainly, evil appears very real in this world. What we are examining now is a deeper motivation, one that is so ancient yet intimately present that we often take it for granted. Our goal is not to deny pain, but to offer the ultimate escape from it. Braden, the scientist, shared that in the 20th century, scientists suggested that all possibilities are already in existence, dormant until we awaken them. From that perspective, everything from the fiercest wars to our greatest social challenges, even the heights of ecstasy and peace, are already present and asleep within us. They wait upon our call to bring them into the world through the choices we make in each moment of our lives. The psychologist Virtue reminds us that God is omnipresent, and since the only thing that is real is God and God's creation, then only peace is real. It's there. We just haven't recognized it because we have been preoccupied with our fear and have used a fearful mind to create. The mystic tells us that we've been praying fear, and since the universe responds to what we ask for, the results have been something to be fearful of. 6, love is the only force in the universe, and we know that that is the truth. If we turn towards love, then we are at peace. But if we reject it, then we experience the shadow we call fear. In our disciplines, all our disciplines are revealing the same thing, that the world we thought we understood so well is a mystery to us. And yet it is clearly revealed to the truth of our souls. To the soul, it is no mystery. So if we want to change the world, we need to only change our mind about the world, for our thoughts, feelings, and emotions are the source of everything we perceive. If we believe that only love exists, then evil cannot oppose love, except in our imagination. The closest we can come to understanding this experience is by being in a state of gratitude, which we all know so well. That's the closest we can come to divine love, for it teaches us on levels we cannot understand with our intellect. We understand it with our hearts. Albert Einstein said many, many years ago, peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding. Number 7, the world is already healed. For the world the ego made, no statement could be more challenging. It is a direct assault upon everything the ego created. The scientist shares that we have come to a fork in the road. Most people will disagree with this statement, that the world is already healed. There's very little evidence to back that up. Once it becomes an experience anchored in our souls and in the way we relate to one another, then it requires new eyes to see, eyes that see a new world. The mystic agrees. There is no way to explain this experience because it exists beyond words and beyond concepts. But when we have it, when it is full within us, then we don't need to explain it. With our souls, yes, we can enter into it fully. The psychologist believes that our true self is healed because God created us perfect, and everything God created is eternal, not subject to disease or decay. We have chosen to look upon death instead of life, guilt instead of joy, and the world has reflected those decisions. We were looking upon a world that didn't exist in reality, only in our dreams. So let this holiday season to be one that you choose to pray peace into your life, into your world, into the world as a whole. Choose to spend time focusing on how you can extend this gift to your daily relationships, at work, in your family, in all the situations you find yourself, even that cashier who is just pushed to the limit. Peace comes not so much through extraordinary phenomena, but through what we see right in front of us every day. That is the proving ground. For it is there that we find the strongest charge, the greatest challenge, and the fullest opportunity to live lives that reflect the principle of peace. So this holiday season, let's spread sprinkles of peace, love, and happiness everywhere, especially to yourself. You are the peace, the love, and the happiness. So claim that and become that expression. So let's prepare for meditation. Let's open our hearts and clear our minds by taking a deep breath in through the center of our heart and pushing it out the top of your head. Open your heart and clear your mind. One more time. Beloved one, God, Allah, Buddha, Jehovah, the universe. Open my heart today so that I may perceive my constant prayers. My thoughts have made the world I see, and so it is mine to undo the world of conflict and despair, the world that's not working for me, revealing a bright alternative where only love is real. I am aware of the ways I have limited myself and have projected those limitations onto the world, the universe, not just my life. In realizing this, I will learn to pray in a new way, releasing the power of my creative soul, which desires only open things, only peace, love, compassion, kindness, joy. Fill me now with your fire and help me be attentive to my own mind. That's where the change will happen for me and everyone that I come in contact with. It is my intention to pray peace from this moment on. Let us take the following affirmations into the silence. I am willing to pray peace this and every moment. So let's take that into the silence. I am willing to pray peace this and every moment. in the silence. I focus my attention on seeing only peace this day. Let's take that one into the silence. I focus my attention on seeing only peace this day in the silence. And lastly, I choose to see peace in every situation. Let's take that into the silence. I choose to see peace in every situation in the silence. Let us end this meditation with the Hindu prayer for peace. O God, lead us from the unreal to the real. O God, lead us from darkness to light. O God, lead us from death to immortality. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti unto all. O Lord God Almighty, may there be peace in celestial regions. May there be peace on earth. May the waters be appeasing. May herbs be wholesome, and may trees and plants bring peace to all. May all beneficent beings bring peace to us. May the Vedic law propagate peace all through the world. May all things be a source of peace to us. And may peace itself bestow peace on all. And may that peace come to me also. For this and so much more, I'm truly grateful. Let it be so, and so it is. Amen.